What's going on, guys? MMA Professor here to do my UFC 126 predictions. A little bit of a cold, so that's why I may sound a little stuffed up. As always, random order from MMA Playground, so here we go. Paul Kelly against Donald Cowboy Cerrone. I think this fight is going to, do a lot towards either dispelling or, accepting the rumor that, or the theory that WEC fighters, 155ers, aren't on the same level. And as Paul Kelly is almost mid-tier in the 155-pound division, and Cerrone was near the top of the WEC division, the thing about Cerrone is he's vastly improved. One, that he's usually a slow starter, but he's picked up the pace in his last couple of fights and got off to a good start. And he's vastly improved his defensive and offensive wrestling. He wrestled the shit out of Jamie Marner, basically, when he fought him. So, he gives Paul Kelly all sorts of problems. He's far better in the stand-up. Defensively, he has some holes in his game. Submission-wise, he's the better wrestler in this fight, and submission-wise, he's way above Paul Kelly. Cerrone, I'm not saying it's going to be an easy fight, as I think it should be a pretty good battle. Kelly likes to slug. Cerrone likes to slug it out. I see Cerrone finishing this fight by submission, late first, early second round. Gabe Rudiger against Paul Taylor. I'm going to pick Paul Taylor to win this fight. I think he can keep it on the feet and avoid the takedown and rough up Rudiger. He may get a TKO stoppage as well, which is entirely plausible. But decision for sure. TKO stoppage possible. Michihiro Omagawa making his return to the UFC at a weight he should have been fighting at his whole career, essentially, against Chad Mendes. Ignoring the record of Omagawa being 12-8, he's a judo black belt. His hands are good. He's a very well-rounded, good fighter, and you've seen evidence of that in his fights in Japan. That being said, Chad Mendes is a bad stylistic matchup. Mendes is a very explosive wrestler, stifling top control, and with pretty good speed on the feet to get in and out. Omagawa's definitely got the hands in this one. He's definitely got the boxing advantage. So, as per usual, Mendes is going to have to, use his size, strength, and speed in the wrestling department and put Omagawa on his back and make him work from there. And, Mendes, we'll see how good his boxing is. I think he's athletic enough to be a fairly good striker. He's still young in his career, but I think he can have some pretty good hands when all is said and done. I wouldn't put it past Omagawa to, keep this on the feet and maybe win a split decision, which he has been known for, winning split decisions that maybe he shouldn't. I'm going to take Mendes in this one by decision. I just think the speed and the athleticism is going to be a problem for Omagawa, and that's my pick. Kid Yamamoto making his UFC debut. Things are bad in Japan when Yamamoto's fighting stateside against Demetrius Johnson. Demetrius Johnson, is really, really a small guy. Mighty Mouse, great nickname for him. He should be fighting at 125. 125 is not there in the UFC, so he fights at 135, and he's pretty well rounded. He's going to need to use his speed, and on paper, Kid should have the wrestling advantage. He's tried out for Olympic teams for Japan in wrestling, but he has gotten out wrestled before. It's a matter of Kid being mentally focused in this one. Johnson has a speed advantage, so he needs to get in and out with his punches, leg kicks, circle around a lot and avoid Kid's huge power. Kid is one of the most powerful guys in terms of striking power in, under 155. So, Kid fighting at 135, I like it. I like it a lot. And I think that's a good weight class for him. So I'm going to pick Yamamoto here by late first, early second round TKO. I think Demetrius Johnson doesn't have the striking skills yet in order to not make a big enough mistake for Yamamoto to capitalize on. So I think Yamamoto's going to stuff the takedowns, stalk him, land a big power shot, and put him out. I'm going to go KO. For late first round, early second round, KO. Next fight, Kenny Robertson against Mike Pierce. It's interesting matchup. I mean, both guys, I see Mike Pierce, they're both pretty good wrestlers. Pierce, he did get out-wrestled by John Fitch. Almost finished that fight late in the third round. He's got pretty good power in his hands. Good clinch game. Both guys are fairly, mirrors of each other, except for Kenny Robertson, I think, is better in the submission department. But it's basically off top control. He's a top position grappler, gets you moves around off his back, which I think I think Pierce is the better wrestler in this one, more powerful wrestler, better in the clinch. So he's going to have to fight off his back. And so I'm going to take Mike Pierce in this one, although I think Robertson is an interesting prospect. He is 10-0. He is a Midwestern guy, so, I mean, with a lot of Midwestern guys, he hasn't fought. The competition isn't the best, and that hurts me to say because I am a Midwest guy myself. But I'm going to go with Mike Pierce, unanimous decision. Ricardo Romero against Kyle Kingsbury. Kyle Kingsbury, I don't know what to think about him. Good wrestler, decent hands, I guess you could say about him. Not sure how this fight is going to go. Romero's definitely way better in the submission game. His hands leave something to be desired, and the reason he got messed up so bad against Petrozelli is his defensive boxing is not good whatsoever. The lucky thing for him is that Kingsbury's not a very good striker himself, so, Kingsbury being the better wrestler, Romero's going to have problems getting into the ground. So this fight is going to be interesting. I think there's going to be a lot of clinch battles. I'm going to pick Ricardo Romero. I don't know how it's going to get to the ground, but it will, and I'm going to pick Ricardo Romero by armbar. All right, here we go. Jake Ellenberger against Carlos Rocha. Rocha's an amazing grappler. Pretty much anywhere. Knee bars, heel hooks, arm bars, chokes. He can do it all. The problem is, I don't really know, seeing footage, how good his striking is. Being that good on the ground, you know where he wants to take it. Ellenberger is the far better wrestler in this one. And Ellenberger has something that not a lot of people have. And it's just a vicious sledgehammer for a right hand. And I see Ellenberger. Ellenberger, by the way, is one of my favorite fighters. I love watching the guy fight. Good wrestler, good top control. He's just one of those powerful guys that can end a fight in one shot, and that's awesome to me. The Mike Tyson effect, really. And if Ellenberger can keep it on the feet and uses vastly superior hands and way better power, I don't think he's going to be. He should look for the one-shot knockout shot, because that gets fighters into trouble all the time. Mike Brown in his last fight against Hanayaya. You can't look for the power shot. It just has to come when you see the opening. And I think Ellenberger can do that. And he's going to put one on him. TKO, second round. I think he's going to be cautious about it. Rough him up on the feet, hit him with a big shot in the second, and finish it with ground and pound. Miguel Torres against Antonio Benuelos. Torres finally training not himself. He's not training himself, and he's training with Faraz Sahabi and the guys up at TriStar, George St. Pierre and all that. Against Antonio Benuelos, who is he's a test in terms of Miguel Torres. How much has he been improving in terms of defensively on the feet, wrestling-wise, clinch-wise, which were glaring holes in Torres' game. Offensive wrestling, defensive wrestling, and defensively on the feet. That's why he got tagged by Bowles. He let emotion play into it, and that's why he needs some guys to control how he goes about it and game plan for fights and actually use his skills where they need to be used. And Torres in this one, what he needs to do, I think, is he's got the reach advantage. He uses his jab, use leg kicks, circle around nicely, kind of frustrate Benuelos so that Benuelos isn't picking his shots and Torres isn't giving him openings. And so Benuelos, kind of charges in and makes a mistake, and Torres can finish it from there. I'm going to pick Torres to win this fight by submission in the second round. I'm picking a lot of stoppages in this one. Holy crap. A lot of stoppages in this one, but okay. So, Torres by submission in the second round. I think he's going to lock up a guillotine or some sort of choke and finish the fight that way. So there you go, Miguel Torres, submission second round. I'm going to do this in a specific order for a reason. Forrest Griffin against Rich Franklin. Then, going back and forth on this one, not who's going to win, but how the fight's going to play out. The first thought I've always had when that's a pretty good fight. I like that fight a lot. Stylistically, I think it's going to be a fairly exciting fight. But Rich Franklin is going to win. I think, in terms of striking, in terms of mental toughness, in terms of offensive wrestling, in terms of grappling, I think Franklin is slightly better. And the big factor is he's got a lot more power in his hands. I'm not saying he's this guy that's going to one-punch everybody like Chuck Liddell was doing back in the day. I'm not saying he has that much power or as much power as Ellenberger or any of these other guys, but he does have power, something Forrest Griffin doesn't. And it's not a slight on the guy. He just doesn't have it. And for being, a big guy, the guy cuts from 240 to make 205. He's like a Nick Diaz kind. He's got some power, but he doesn't, put anything into him. They're mostly arm punches. He doesn't use his legs. He doesn't use a lot of torque in his. So, that's just his style of fighting. Which is better for him anyways, because if he were to plant his feet, he'd be even slower than he is now, and it would be a bigger problem. But anyways, I'm getting off track here. Rich Franklin, I think Forrest Griffin can win this fight by using his size advantage and his cardio. Well, they both have pretty good cardio, but wearing down on Franklin, basically. Clinching him against the cage, making Rich work off the cage a lot, trying to tire him out, trying to bring his hands down, using his boxing, using his leg kicks as well, which he does have power, so a lot of power in his legs, in his leg kicks. I think Franklin is the more technical striker of the two. He's got power, and I see him hurting Forrest Griffin a couple of times. En route to unanimous decision. That's what I'm going to pick. Rich Franklin by unanimous decision. Keeping the distance, using his good hands, using a body kick maybe, setting up a body kick here or there. Maybe trying to put Forrest on his back and see what happens. I think it's going to be back and forth. I think there is going to be parts of the fight where Forrest Griffin is, controlling the pace and stuff like that. This may go to a split decision. That's just the kind of fight it is, but I see Rich Franklin doing enough to win the fight. And the reason I did that one beforehand is that this should be the co-main event, which is Ryan Bader against John Jones. John Jones, I think, let's back it up. Let's start over. I think Bader gives John Jones some problems that he hasn't seen before. Notably, Bader doesn't have the most technical boxing, but he does have good power in his hands, which is something Jones, Matt Hamill, but also Bader is a better wrestler in terms of, traditional wrestling. I think Jones has the advantage in Greco-Roman. because that's where his skill set lies. That's what he's done, is Greco-Roman. I think Bader has the better wrestling in terms of, singles, doubles, stuff like that. He's also a really strong guy. Just Jones kind of beats him everywhere else. Technique-wise, I don't think Jones is there yet. He's pretty good in his stand-up. He throws a lot of flashy stuff still. He doesn't put combinations together very well. He's good with, single shots. His leg kicks are okay. I think he needs to build on that a little bit. And he's got the better cardio than Bader. Bader, I don't think, has improved very much on his cardio. He still tends to gas later in fights. He falls back on his wrestling a little too much. He could do it against Nogueira, who doesn't have very good defensive wrestling. Against Jones, he's not going to be able to do that. I see Jones winning this fight pretty much everywhere. Like I said, Bader may give him some problems avoiding, the big shots. If I'd like to see Jones's chin get tested by Bader, which would be a pretty good indication of how good he handles a punch, because he really doesn't get hit a lot either, which is impressive considering the level of which I believe his stand-up is at. So I'm going to pick John Jones, unanimous decision. I don't see anywhere. I mean, he can win the fight if he gets top position and puts Bader on his back. That's going to be a big problem for Bader, and he could finish it from there. If he could finish it inside a guard with elbows, or if he passes and stuff like that, he could finish it by TKO. So, but I'm going to pick John Jones, unanimous decision. The main event in which I was going to pick Vitor Belfort. I will say that right off the bat. I was one of the first ones who was going to pick Vitor Belfort. And I made it known some other people are stealing my thunder with their videos, now picking, and now it seems to be the trendy thing to do is pick Vitor. I was picking him for a couple different reasons. I watched MMA analyst Karsten's video, and he made some valid points. Notably, Vitor has been off for a long time, which is true. He hasn't fought since late 2009, which is almost a year and a half, which is a substantial layoff, especially going into what type of fight this is. Vitor also, both guys being counter-strikers, in Anderson's previous fights, when you got guys, he will not come in and just try to finish people. He will not push forward. He's a counter-striker. Against wrestlers, he will move backwards. Against jiu-jitsu players, he moves backwards. Against strikers, he moves backwards. And by backwards, I don't mean backing up with his hands down. I mean, he moves away. He doesn't move into... He moves in when he sees an opening, but he's not just going to rush in and make a stupid mistake and get taken down or get knocked out. So, in this one, I think Anderson, he's got to use the lateral movement. He's going to get Vitor to come in on him. I think it's going to be very tentative. First of all, I want to say the first round I think is going to be boring. There's going to be lots of booing. By boring, I mean it's people figuring each other out. It's going to happen. Just let it go. They're waiting. They're patient strikers. They know they have 5 rounds, so it's going to be what it is. And that's the thing. Anderson Silva has the reach. He's got good lateral movement. And yes, Vitor throws good hands, quick hands. And he's got to look for an opening and cut off the cage, which is very hard to do against Anderson Silva. The other thing that I was looking at was against Chael Sonnen, he didn't look good at all. And a lot of people say, well, okay, it was an injury. Okay, fair game. If he was injured, his rib was injured, I can kind of see that. The other thing he got tagged a lot on the feet by a guy who's not, renowned for his striking. He got hurt on the feet against Chael Sonnen, Was it because he was looking for the takedown and not respecting his stand-up at all? Was it because he was injured, that he was protecting his ribs and having his hands so low? Was it because he's just lost that step? You know, at certain points, a fighter is going to lose their, main advantages that they have made them so dominant in their career. Has he lost the speed? Has he lost? I mean, has he lost his coordination? And those are all viable questions in my mind, and that's what makes this one so tough to pick. I mean, so much so that I've been thinking about picking a guy that has that big of a layoff, a guy that has not fought at 185 in the UFC, a guy who also has question marks himself about his mentality, his mental game, and how stylistic the matchup is. And I think in this fight, I would say it's viable to pick either guy. Either guy, if you have your reasoning for it and you can lay it out in an intelligent fashion, I don't think picking either guy would be the wrong pick here. Somebody has to win, and I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to stick with Belfort to win this fight. I think he can cut off the cage against Anderson and his lateral movement. I think he can use his speed, which I think he has an advantage over Anderson. His problem is he needs to get inside the reach advantage, which is what's going to make this fight so tentative, is he's looking to get inside the reach, and Anderson's not looking to not let him inside that zone of comfort for him, where he can technically outstrike you from the outside, he can pick you apart, and he can jump in when he sees the opening of you letting down your guard. So that's why I think it's a very, very interesting fight. And, this is one of those fights where I don't think I really technically have to break down anything else besides the striking aspect in this one. Yeah, there may be some clinch battles. Will this fight go to the ground? I don't think so. I think the only way this goes to the ground is if somebody rocks the other one. But we'll see, though. I mean, Vitor has been training at Extreme Couture. Maybe, he's looking to... I mean, it's hard to ignore that you can take Anderson Silva down at will, basically. So we'll see what happens. But I think Vitor's got the speed and the punching power to get in. And the patience to get inside of Anderson Silva's defensive guard, hit him with a few shots, pick him apart, hit him with a huge shot eventually, maybe in the third round, put him down and finish him with strikes on the ground. So what I'm going to pick, Vitor Belfort, TKO, third round. But you guys stealing my damn thunder. Break it down better than that. I dare you. So there you go. Those are my picks. UFC 126. This card is freaking awesome. On paper, this is awesome. This card is great. I like it a lot, and I think it's going to deliver. And I'm very excited for it. I have the weekend off. Hopefully this cold is gone by then so I can do some drinking. You guys, stay metal. Later.